Louis Vuitton lovers. The first thought might be, why even bother? It's pretty well established by now that the Louis Vuitton line of fragrances isn't really geared towards the fragrance aficionado, the frag head. It's more geared towards someone who maybe wants a piece of the Louis Vuitton brand, or might already be a Louis Vuitton customer and wants to just throw a fragrance in with their purchase. More or less, to me, they're well done designer style fragrances. They're very likable. There's not a bad smelling one in the bunch for the most part, but they also smell very simple, generally very synthetic, and very familiar designer style profiles. It's almost like Vuitton decided, well, we don't already have a fragrance range. Why bother with the lower end designer tier scent category? Let's just go straight into luxury niche pricing and make that the only thing available, while making scents that more or less smell like mainstream mass appealing designer smells. So why did I decide to talk about it still? I think it brings up a few interesting points that have been on my mind ever since Louis Vuitton started with the creative direction of Virgil Abloh. Now, Virgil passed away several years ago, tragically due to cancer. And while I respect the man, I respect his achievements, and by all accounts, he was an extremely nice and generous person. His take on creativity is something that I vehemently disagree with. And I think the Lover's fragrance really exemplifies that. So he famously had a quote saying that you could make something new or design something new by changing just 3% of the process, product, or perspective. And to me, this really exemplifies that attitude, that all you need to do is just shift something a tiny bit and you can make a new product. As has already been publicized, this is kind of a Santal 33 dupe. And it's really funny to me. It's almost cringy, like the hype over Santal 33 has been dead for several years by now. At least if you're in a major city, you've been to hotels whose lobbies smell like it, they burn the candle, or you've passed people wafting this smell. I remember liking it the first time I tried it. I do think it's kind of a generally interesting smell. We've just been oversaturated with it. The way it wears in particularly is a bit cloying, and the sillage is really huge, and I think that's why it's so noticeable. So at this point, to do something that's so close to Santal 33 is just kind of shows a lack of taste, a lack of vision, and a lack of creativity. So first, I guess we'll talk about the smell and in what ways it's different. Now, this one is the first fragrance creative directed by Pharrell. Jacques Cavalier, of course, is still the perfumer, but this is the first fragrance released since Pharrell's tenure. Actually, that might not be true, but this is the first fragrance kind of branded as a collaboration with Pharrell. So what do we get? Right from the opening, that Santal, that sandalwood aroma chemical that's well known from Santal 33 is noticeable in the background. The top is quite a bit fresher. It lists galbanum. I don't get anything that I immediately associate with galbanum. Really what it smells like to me is if you took the base of Santal 33 and mashed it up with a designer men's blue fragrance. It has that blue sporty shower gel kind of opening. They list, I believe, maybe it's ginger. Yeah, ginger, galbanum, and then some woods. So to me, it's a mashup, of a shower gel blue fragrance on top with Santal 33 on the bottom. Now, I think this is really the problem with brands hiring either creatives or stylish people who aren't designers themselves as creative directors. I think like Virgil, he was a fashion fan, as is Pharrell, and Pharrell has amazing personal style. I like his personal style. I like his music production as well. There's no arguing that he is a master at that and very accomplished at that. But when you have kind of fans of fashion or fans of whatever field they're in, they tend to not have ideas of their own. And I can just see Pharrell sitting down with the marketing team and saying, well, I like Santal 33, let's do a riff on that. And it's interesting, the continuity with Virgil's attitude of change 3%. If you watch the Vuitton shows under Virgil, they very often were a mishmash of very directly referential works. One in particular, I remember there was a bit of a dust-up about Walter van Beirendonck, saw some of his work on the Vuitton runway and spoke out about it. Other ones that were very directly copied were Craig Green, Rick Owens, Tom Brown, and Raf Simons. You can recognize all their work in the runway shows of Vuitton. Pharrell, I would say, is less derivative of other current designers, but his design style has been sort of the very old-fashioned style of designing, which is where you have kind of a different theme every season, which can wildly vary, but you just put the brand spin on that. So one season we're cowboys, the next season we're skaters. I don't think he's actually done skaters. Then we're in Hawaii, we're off to Saint-Tropez. There's really no continuity or vision or design language being developed or being explored. It's just these kind of tropes of dressing that are kind of given the Vuitton treatment, luxed up materials, logoed apparel, stuff like that. To me, this style of runway designing seems very dated. And yeah, I just think it's disappointing. There's many young creative designers who work their lives to kind of hone their craft and have a perspective who could have gotten the job, but we give it to a celebrity. But again, as the first thing I said in the video, why bother? Vuitton wasn't for me then, it isn't for me now. But I think these are interesting cultural topics to dissect. I always think the true essence of creativity is synthesis. So of course, the postmodern point that is made is that nothing is original, everything comes from something else, that the guardians of sort of taste or judging good or bad are really guardians of a particular power that needs to be toppled. I personally used to kind of believe this as a younger person. Maybe I'm getting old and jaded, but I start to react against this idea very strongly as it's taken more and more root in the culture. I think there are new things to be explored. I think creativity and the arts are really endless in terms of the topics that can be brought forth. And I think, of course, it's true that nothing comes out of nowhere, but true creativity is able to synthesize disparate ideas into something brand new. And I think taking an existing idea and just simply copying it and putting a 3% twist, that is not creativity, that's not intelligent design, that's not really adding anything to the world or to the conversation. So that's my long diatribe because there's really not much to say about the smell itself. It's a fresher take on Le Labo Santal 33 for $320. Interestingly, they say it's all about the sun. To me, it's a little heavy. The way that sandalwood chemical has worn, it's always been a little suffocating in warm weather. There's no neroli, there's no citrus, there's nothing to me that really recalls the sense of sun. Also, the Santal 33 smell always makes me think of candles, just because I think famously it was the Ace Hotel in New York had a candle designed for them by Le Labo that was based on Santal 33. And there's just reminds me of early 2000s swanky hotel lobby smell, which is a decent smell, but I don't want it on me. And it, again, it's sort of dated, it's kind of played out, and it's really kind of head scratching that this would be Pharrell's direction, because you would think even him, he would know that it's a little bit cringy to be referencing such an oversaturated fragrance profile. So I think that's all I have to say about it. Yeah, fresh. I'm shocked by how blue it smells. It smells so much like a blue designer in the beginning with the Santal base. But I'm repeating myself. I've clearly run out of other things to say about the fragrance. It's fairly simple and there's really not much else to deconstruct. So that's all.